Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Have you ever seen? It's a neat little toy. They used to have them in places. Called a coin vortex. It's like a funnel. You drop a coin in. It kind of spins around the edge, and it goes around the edge, and it goes faster and faster and faster and faster, and it goes really, really fast, and it falls down into the donation bucket. Very, very neat. And of course, the center of that is, of course, the locus of increasing inertia and acceleration, or what the common person calls gravity. There's the mass of the Earth, then there's the mass of that metal coin. Of course, it's spinning around a vortex. However, that same spinning is replicated in countless thousands of analogies, and there is no apparent funnel or plastic vortex there that a coin's spinning around. One perfect analogy that I think everybody's seen is a skater on the ice. They will skate really fast in a straight line, and what they'll do is they'll spin in a curve with their arms out, and then they'll draw their arms in, and as they draw their arms in, which of course is bringing the mass to a central axis point, their actual speed will increase. Now, I don't think anybody on this earth, whether they be intelligent or unintelligent, thinks that a skater, by measure of their very small mass, most skaters are pretty skinny folk, that they have some sort of curved space-time vortex. And as I've shown you in countless thousands of videos using the supercell over here, I don't need to grab it, the supercell over there, we actually see this vortex, this funnel, on either quote-unquote pole of a magnet. That's, of course, the increasing portal of increasing inertia and acceleration. I like to make this analogy as simple as possible because I've never actually said it this way, and it makes it very, very simple. And we're talking about ether torsion here, of course, and as I've said in countless other videos, there's only ever been two models of the universe. Only ever two throughout all of human history. There's only been two. One's based upon atomistic, cult-debunking particles, pure materialism, of course, and I haven't at no point in time ever denied atoms. There's a huge distinction between talking about subatomic particles like protons and neutrons and the actual premise of a type of belief system, and it is a belief system, of pure atomism, where everything in the universe is bumping particles, and there's this crazy, insane notion of curved space-time. The space has absolutely no properties. Quote, unquote, Nikola Tesla. And of course, Nikola Tesla is 100% right. And space is not a thing. Space is a measure of, time is not a thing. Time is a measure of magnitude. And every ancient culture, be it Greek, Indian, Egyptian, has always said time is the number 4. It would take an hour to actually explain why time is the number 4. And there's only one number missing between 1 and 5 in the Fibonacci sequence. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. Let's do that again. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. The only number missing is the number 4, the number for time. So there's no such thing as curved space-time. Well, you and I both grew up with that nonsense in Star Trek and Star Wars and all these other really silly, pathetic, little atomistic movies and TV shows. We were brainwashed and indoctrinated with this notion of curved space-time. And the only time Nikola Tesla kind of lost his mind, if you will, I wouldn't have lost his mind, but was angry, was the notion of supposed curved space. He said there's no such thing as curved space, and space has no properties. Eric Dollard has said this, and he's, of course, 100% right, and all of them are 100% right. But let's just think about the vortex at the portal, i.e. either pole of a magnet. That, of course, is the portal for increasing inertia and acceleration to the plane of inertia. To say space and to say the creation of time and to say magnetism is really a distinction without a difference. When you actually have a magnetic field, you have a torus. When you have a torus, you have volume. When you have volume, you actually have mass, and the resultant after effect of that divergent magnetic field, which is centrifugal force in motion, is, of course, space. But space has no properties, kind of like a shadow. It's the mirage of infinity, if you will. Infinity, of course, would be infinite potential. Infinite actuality, of course, is what people cherish because they see the world upside down. By the way, every ancient culture has said the same thing. But in short, the universe, material universe, okay, the universe of natura naturans, the The cosmos aesthetos, as the Greeks would say, versus the cosmos noitos. The cosmos aesthetos, sort of the material universe, is, of course, a toroid. Yeah, a donut shape. By the way, what's the negative image of a donut? The negative image of a donut is a hyperboloid. I don't know if you know what the geometry of a hyperboloid looks like, but it looks like an hourglass. The negative image of a hyperboloid or an hourglass is, of course, a toroid. So they form the conjugate geometry of the universe. So the universe of the material universe is a toroid. The universe of, not the material universe, but the substrate or the foundation of the universe, i.e. the ether, you could say zero-point energy, you could say dark matter, you could say dark, it doesn't matter, who cares what silly human beings call it, we're talking about the ether here. That's the geometry of the hyperboloid. All matter has mutual acceleration, not towards one another, as I've stated endless times, but towards the null pressure point between the two, which of course is the vortex of increasing inertia and acceleration, just like the skater that draws their arms in, and that of course is the mass drawing itself in away from a spatial vector. Yeah, if you, it depends on how heavy a person is and how thick their arms are and how muscular they are and the muscular density, but when a skater draws their arms in on the ice, you know, they start to spin up. And of course, you're drawing the mass in away from a spatial vortex. Here we can actually get into talking about the centrifugal motion, but that's a description, not an explanation. We could also talk about the gyroscopic effect, of which, what's his face, that British guy. I've seen all of his videos on gyroscopes. Eric Lathwaite, that's it, Eric. I've seen every one of his videos, probably 3 or 4 times. He's a very smart guy, very intelligent. I wish he was still alive. The one thing that he does intelligently when he demonstrates countless different gyroscopes to people in magnetism is he's fascinated by it and he wants to know the answers, but he doesn't pretend like modern cult of quantum folk do. He says, I don't know the answer, but he's desperate to know the answer. You know, that sort of native curiosity is highly commendable. It's better to have an extreme desire to know and admit that you don't know than to be a hubristic academic. Well, I know, I have a PhD. I'm going to know, well, of course I know. Well, what's the answer? Well, I don't know, and I can explain it to you, but it's above your head. That's what that's what Richard Feynman did when he was sitting in that tall back chair when that English interviewer asked him, well, what is magnetism? He wasn't being facetious or sarcastic. He's like, what is magnetism? Well, I could explain it to you, but you wouldn't understand it. It's basically above your head. That interview is all over YouTube, by the way. It's really, really hilarious. Absolutely, everybody should watch it. It's the perfect example of academic hubris and ignorance that I've ever seen in my life, and it's just absolutely pervasive through academia. So the material universe is a toroid. The ether is a hyperboloid, and these two, of course, form the conjugate geometry of the universe. We're ultimately talking about ether torsion, of course, necessitatively so. Mother Nature is simple, but not simplex. But there's no nonsense of curved space-time. Time is a measure of magnitudes. It's only a measure. It's not a thing itself. It's the reason why it doesn't exist in the first 5 numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. It doesn't exist. It's the only one that doesn't exist. 4 is not in the first 5 numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. It's a measure. Space is the after effect of a divergent magnetic field. But space itself is ether torsion. So there's no notion of curved space or curved time, and time is not a thing at all. It's like talking about curved happiness or something like that. It was like, happiness is ethereal. There's no such thing as a subject of, an object of happiness. It's like saying, you saw happiness walking down the road. It's like, no, who was happy? No, I saw happiness walking down the road. These are the same scientists who'll talk about waves, and they love to talk about waves. Like a wave of what? What do you mean, waves? No, wave of what? No, waves. No, there's no such thing as a wave. Sure there is. As scientists or academia, we talk about waves, energy waves. Well, energy is another abstract term that science and academia never defined either. They've never defined a field, and they never defined energy. And there's no such thing as a wave, because a wave is not a thing. Waves do not exist. No one on Earth, on any planet in the galaxy or the universe, has ever seen like happiness or sadness walking down the road. They're not things. They're attributes of something else. Someone is sad. Someone is sad. There's no such thing as a wave. There's something that is waving. But they love to talk about waves, but they will reify these posterior attributes as subjects or principles, but of course they're not. That's the fallacy due to ignorance. You see, they studied a lot and they memorized a lot and they passed a lot of tests, but they never learned how to learn. Never learned how to think clear. Excuse me. My allergies are acting up. They never learned how to think clearly. Very, very unfortunate. So the ends of any torus, by the way, if we think about a torus, excuse me for coughing. Should have drank some water before this. Allergies acting up. Excuse me. The ends of any donut or torus shape, either side, of course, if we actually look at that, just think about a donut shape or a torus. Either side there, we actually have a funnel. That is the vortex. It's the same reason why a skater draws her arms in. It acts like the coins that we drop in those vortex funnels of the donation buckets. It spins. It's really cool. Coin spins around, it speeds up, just like a skater. Every mass is centrifugally accelerating in a vortex towards the null pressure point in counter space. All masses mutually accelerate, not towards one another, but towards counter space. I showed that underneath the ferrule cell. The magnets do not accelerate towards one another, rather towards a null pressure point between the two. Magnets do not accelerate towards one another. And that's not magnetic attraction either. That's dielectric acceleration. So the empirical universe of mass and matter, of course, is a toroid. The ether is, of course, a hyperboloid, the negative image of a torus. Either side of a torus, there is a funnel or a vortex. This is the reason why all mutual mass acceleration follows it. There's a reason why we actually see a vortex, as I've shown in over 1,000 videos of the supercell, on either quote-unquote pole of a magnet. A magnet doesn't actually have poles. It actually has the inverse of counter space, which is a three-dimensional S-curve. All force vectors, i.e. magnetism, the most fundamental force vector, is a three-dimensional S-curve. I should have drank some water before this. Sorry about that coughing bit. You know, like 6,000 videos, I don't think I've ever coughed like that. I'm like, darn, allergies and, yeah, well, you know, nobody's perfect. Go ahead and crucify me, why don't you? So, all space at any locus, all space, this is a very important point, all space at any locus is a torus where any matter is the vortex hyperboloid access point. Calling it access points rather inappropriate, but it's still fundamentally accurate as a mental visualization tool. All space at any locus is a torus where any and all matter is a toroidal vector of increasing inertia and acceleration, i.e. a hyperboloid, or the conjugate ends of the hyperboloid. You know, like an hourglass has two bulbous ends. There's a conjugate vortex geometry of mutual acceleration against the torus. There's the conjugate geometry of the entire universe is the torus and the hyperboloid. One is a force in motion, and the other one is increasing inertia and acceleration towards counter space. One is a spatial vector towards creating space, which is not a thing, but the after effect of a magnetic divergent field. And the other one is increasing inertia and acceleration towards the plane of inertia, or the null point against the torus of empirical phenomena, mass, magnitude, and matter, which of course are really like saying water, steam, and ice. We're talking about three different things that are of course one thing. But it's that simple. Nobody would, you know, of the greatest ignorance think that a skater, for example, analogously, you know, is curving space and time. Like she's spinning up, it's like a vortex funnel, you know, where she draws her arms in and the skater spins up. No one would think that. That's completely nonsensical. Skater's arms and her central body core at the axis are curving space-time. That's why she's spinning up. No. It's because all mutual mass acceleration is following, kind of like the coin in the funnel, following a vortex towards increasing inertia and acceleration at the lowest pressure point at counter space. Just like the Cavendish experiment, where two large supermasses of lead will accelerate towards the lowest pressure point. I don't know if you know familiar with the Cavendish experiment, but some people are. Anyway, sorry for that coughing. Dry throat combined with allergies. It started raining really bad like a couple weeks ago. It's just been humid as hell and my allergies have been acting up. Oh well, nobody's perfect. God knows I'm not. Except for my mind. That's really sharp. The rest of me sucks and it's falling apart. I hope you liked this video. If you did, let me know. Check out the links in the description below. Have a lovely day. Next time I'm going to bring a glass of water. Thanks. Do 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 do.